The title of my sermon this morning is The Kingdom of Heaven and Divine Judgment. It's drawn from the verse in Matthew that reads, "When the net was full, they drew it ashore, sat down, and put the good into baskets, but threw out the bad." It was the third time Jesus sat down to teach. You may recall the first teaching section in the Gospel of Matthew, that being the Sermon on the Mount. In his second set of teachings, Jesus taught the disciples about their mission. There are two more sets of teaching, but we may cover those another day. In our reading this morning, Jesus only spoke in parables, and his topic was the kingdom of heaven. The crowd eagerly listened to his words. The 5 parables we heard this morning alluded to the divine kingdom. And the first was the mustard seed, that tiniest of seed. Jesus described how expansive the plant could grow, likely crowding out more modest plants and impressively hosting multiple bird nests. He compared the kingdom to baking bread. Who doesn't enjoy fresh, mouth-watering bread? 3 measures of flour were not a modest amount, but enough to make 100 loaves. He said that the kingdom was also precious, so valuable, in fact, that one would give everything he or she had for it. Jesus made the point twice, once for the person stumbling on a treasure and again for the person who diligently sought it. He finished with a parable of a net full of fish, but not all fish were worth keeping. Some would be tossed back, not making the final cut. Like any parable, these 5 have many layers. We can peel away to glimpse their essence. Taken together, as Matthew wants us to do, we find a robust description of heaven that fills us with encouragement, but also caution. In many respects, Jesus created an illustration of heaven that we like. It's expansive. Many people are welcomed to enjoy the kingdom. The gates to it are wide open, and people come and go as they please. Many come for the day, walking the roads and fields, picnicking in gardens, or punting along the calm river. The markets are crowded with people who have appropriate face coverings and maintain proper social distancing. But nevertheless, everyone enjoys themselves. In the center is a castle, and even its towering gates are wide open. The kingdom keeps growing. As more people enter, it enlarges, and there is always enough room for all. Heaven never reaches its capacity. There is always another room or place to stay and another trail to wander. We see old friends and family members and don't have to bother with those that we don't like. Not that it matters anymore. Some discover the kingdom for the first time. They spy the land from afar and feel its lure, wanting to come closer. Realizing what it is, they forget all else and walk through the gates. They spring for joy and revel in delight at the sights and sounds of heaven. Others come through relieved, having found the place after a long, arduous journey. They marvel as if seeing a box of sparkling jewels for the first time. All seem happy there. Although admittedly, some have not figured things out as quickly as others, they seem misguided but not bad actors. Some even try to help these wayward souls, helping some to see the specialness of the kingdom. but all know that every kingdom has a king. No one has met the king yet. Rumors are that the royal family dwells in a secret part of the castle, but those are rumors. All, however, know that one day the king will step forth and judge people's actions. There is a notice about it for everyone to read at the front gate of the castle. On that day, the gates will close. No one can enter or leave. Those from England say that everyone will need to queue, of course. That's the British way. Regardless of the discussion about lining up, they know on that day all will be judged, good and evil. That's what the king wants, and it's his kingdom after all. Although those from America say that that's not fair. Everyone instead should get a vote. The last bit is sticky, isn't it? Perhaps that's why Jesus asked the crowd if they understood him. Everyone said yes. Separating the good from the evil sounds fine in the abstract. In principle, we get it. But Jesus wasn't giving an overview. He wasn't outlining general guidelines. He was making a statement about the way things would be. The angels would come, and some would be thrown into the fire. Grim indeed. No one questioned or challenged Jesus, however. Is that because we hope for the best, assume that God's justice will right all wrongs, and roll the way we perceive it? Or do we merely accept it as fact because that is the way we've been taught? My father was an avowed and vocal atheist who slightly changed his views before he died, becoming a taciturn agnostic. He coldly and said repeatedly that people only followed religion because they hoped for an afterlife. I didn't agree with him. To me, evil people don't care what happens after they die, and most others don't give it much thought except at the occasional funeral. But those who go to church know better. There is a line from the letter of Romans in our burial office that reads, "For whether we live or whether we die, we are the Lord's possession." When I die, one way or another, I will fall into my Creator's arms, and that's enough for me. I don't worry about death because the will to live is so strong. I want to live a good life, not because I'm going to get extra credit in heaven, but that it makes my life on earth, here and now, so much better. That's the bit about the 5 parables we need to peel back. Jesus spoke about the kingdom of heaven in the present tense. It wasn't some future reality. He declared that the kingdom of heaven had drawn near. If he were so concerned about the future, he would have said that the kingdom of heaven will be like, or one day you will dwell in the kingdom of heaven, and you will feel as if you found treasure. But he didn't say that. For Jesus, the kingdom of heaven was and is now, and was and is here. Thus, the judgment of the king is also present. It is not based on some future acts. The separation of good and evil happens here on earth because the kingdom of heaven extends to earth. Jesus is the Lord of all that dwells on earth. Heaven's rule is here, and the limits of the kingdom exist in our realm. In the end, what does this mean? Good and evil are tossed about by many people these days. This one is good, that one is evil. We like to make those judgments, especially about our leaders. Jesus' teaching, however, tells us something different. Judgment is not ours to make. We don't separate the good from the evil The angels do. God does. God is the one who decides the fate of each of us. Thus, our concern is our actions, not that of others. Who are we to judge someone else? As the letter of the Romans also says, Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave room for the wrath of God, for it is written, Vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. We need to leave room for God's judgment. Justice may not be complete or meted out the way we want, but our justice and judgments are not the final words. The true judge is greater than us. Our job, our mission is simple. We are to live according to Jesus' precepts and leave room for mercy and justice.